Welcome to Shepherds and Kings, a Christmas devotional. This time of year, we're all in the Christmas spirit, and we start thinking about the Christmas story. And so I started diving in a little while ago and really looking into things, and the Lord's been bringing some stuff to me that I want to share with you guys that may not be the regular Christmas stuff. We know the story that there was no room in the inn, so Mary and Joseph had to go to the manger, and that's where she gave birth to Jesus. And the three kings, the three wise men show up and bring gifts, and the Messiah is born. But there's a little bit more to that, and some nuances and some things that I think the Lord has been showing me that I want to share with you guys. So there's a cast of characters or elements here that I want to get into over the next couple weeks or so. And I want to talk about the shepherds, I want to talk about the magi, I want to talk about the kings and the prophets. And so our text today will be in Luke chapter 2. The texts of the Christmas story are generally found in Luke 2 and Matthew 2 as well. So Luke chapter 2, verses 7 through 20. And Mary gave birth to her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling cloths, and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them at the inn. And in the same region there were shepherds out in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And an angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were filled with great fear. And the angel said to them, "Fear not, for behold, I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who is Christ the Lord. And this will be a sign for you. You will find a baby wrapped in swaddling cloths and lying in a manger." And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of heavenly hosts, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace among those with whom he is pleased." When the angels went away from them into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let's go over to Bethlehem and see this thing that's happened, which the Lord has made known to us." And they went with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the baby lying in a manger. And when they saw it, they made known the saying that had been told to them concerning the child. And all who heard it wondered at what the shepherds told them. But Mary treasured up all these things, pondering them in her heart. And the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all they had heard and seen as it had been told to them. So there's a few things that we see here, but I want to focus today on the shepherds. And this has really been impressed on me that the first people to whom the Messiah is announced outside of Mary and Joseph, and you could argue Elizabeth and Zechariah, was shepherds. That's the first folks that God showed up to, and the first folks who saw him as well. God shows up and he announces the birth of the Messiah, the Christ, to these shepherds who are out in the fields watching their flocks by night. A couple of things to note here is that God could have announced Jesus to King Herod and the priests and the high class folks, but he didn't. He showed up to these lowly shepherds out tending their flocks. And it's to show us in many ways, I think, that Jesus doesn't come just for the rich or the powerful or those of notoriety, but he came in a way that's accessible for everybody. And that required him to humble himself and take on the form of a servant, even the lowliest of servants, so that he's not outside of the reach of any of us based off of our own worldly status, so to speak. But more than this, let's take a look. The shepherds were not in Bethlehem. It says that they were in the region around Bethlehem and that they had to go over to Bethlehem. Let's go over to Bethlehem and see what's happened here. Now, doubtless there were shepherds that were in Bethlehem. So why would God send his angel to appear to those that are in a region nearby and not Bethlehem itself? I think it's because that these shepherds were keeping watch. These shepherds were keeping watch of their flocks at night. While other shepherds slept, while others were in bed, they were being watchful and anticipating. See, God has a penchant for shepherds, and it seems like he always has. Even going back to Cain and Abel. And we know that Cain brought the Lord some of his fruit, and that wasn't an acceptable offering. But I think that Abel had a bit of the Lord's heart there, because as a shepherd, you're tending another living creature. You have care over that, and you're watching out for them. But even if we go a little further, we take a look at Moses. Moses was a shepherd too, and he was shepherding sheep in the desert when God called him and he encountered God. David was a shepherd. And when the Lord sent Samuel to anoint the next king, he was out tending his father's flocks. And so God has a heart for that, because Jesus is the true shepherd. And that's what we see. He is the true shepherd. And here he is first announced to and seen by shepherds, not just any, those who were keeping watch over their flocks, those who weren't sleeping. They were vigilant in the darkness. They were vigilant in the night to protect their sheep, making sure that no danger would befall them, no predator, no enemy would come upon them and do them any harm. And so this is a call to us as Christians this Christmas season, I think, is that we need to be watchful. We need to be looking to the return of Christ, eagerly awaiting and anticipating his second coming, and not to fall asleep. Don't sleep. Now is not the time for us to be sleeping as a church. And if you are asleep, you need to wake up. We need to be awake and vigilant, because our adversary, the devil, prowls about as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. As pastors, this is a call for us in particular to be watching over our flocks in the darkness, that we see these dark days upon us, and we see the enemy prowling about as a lion, and we have a duty for the flock that God has entrusted to us to guard them, to be vigilant, to make sure, to be watchful, even in the wee hours of the night. But you too, as a Christian, have a flock. You are called to watch out for others in your life, and God has brought other people into your life for you to be a shepherd unto. Whether you're a parent and you're looking out for your children and leading them and guiding them, or even if you're a child, you have friends and you have others in your life that the Lord has brought in, and you can speak life into them. You can watch out for their best interests. You can guard them about and tend to them as a shepherd would to their flock. But I think it's notable here, again, that God didn't send his angels to announce this to rulers or leaders, or even, think about this, even the Pharisees. So the Pharisees and the Sadducees were the religious leaders of the time, and they were tasked with keeping care of God's flock, Israel. And there's almost this scriptural contrast that we see here. Rather than God sending an angel to the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they were too busy kind of vying for who was greatest in the kingdom, so to speak. They were neglecting to take care of the flock that God had called them to take care of. And we see that in Jesus' dealings with them and all of the woes that he prescribed them, saying that they don't enter into heaven and they keep others from entering in even. And so instead of sending his messengers to the shepherds that had been called but were not being faithful with what they had been called to, he instead appears to the humble and the lowly, who were awake at night, who were keeping watch, and who were able to receive his message because they were about his business. They were doing what God had called them to do. They weren't asleep. And so what was the reaction of the shepherds? Well, it was a missionary reaction. They believed God and they went to go see what it was that God had told them about. And then after encountering Christ, they went out and they told others, to the extent that everyone who heard it wondered and marveled at what it was that they had to say. So others were hearing this and they were excited about this. This was an all the rage, all the buzz. They were excited to share this message with others. Even so much as when they returned home, they went back to where they were from, but they didn't go back the same. They went back with a message of good news and peace to man through God and through Jesus Christ, that his anointed one had been sent, that Christ the Messiah was here. They went back glorifying God and praising him. And so this was a missionary response and reaction. They couldn't keep the message of God's hope and his love and his good news to themselves. They were praising him everywhere they went and sharing that with others. So a few questions for us in this Advent season. Who has God entrusted to your care as part of your flock? We often hear that phrase, your vibe attracts your tribe. And I would say that the better saying maybe is, who's in your flock? God has brought people into your life for you to keep an eye out for and for you to help along the way and guide and look after and all of those things that a shepherd does. Secondly, are you keeping watch? Are you looking to see God in your daily life? Are you eagerly awaiting and expecting the second coming of Christ and his return? That's what Advent is all about, Christ's coming. And we know that he's coming again soon. Are you looking out for predators and enemies, those that would take advantage of others that are in your life or do them harm? Are you looking out for that in order to warn and protect others? And lastly, having encountered Christ, what will you do now? Will you share the message and the hope of the good news to others? Will you engage in that ministry reaction and share that good news of life and light this Advent season? Some things to consider, and until next week, God bless you.